Hey,
Are we here? Yay!
what's up? Hey,
We have liftoff.
we are here.
Yes. How we doing, Tandy?
Doing good, doing good. How you doing, brother?
I'm good, thank you. The sun has just set here in Ibiza.
Ah,
I believe the sun's still shining where you are right now.
it is, it is.
Where are you right now, by the way?
In Brooklyn, New York,
Brooklyn.
on the East Coast.
Oh, cool. So, let me get this straight. Who's in Puerto Rico?
Yes, Niambi is in Puerto Rico.
Okay, so she's moved to live there now, or?
Yep, living her best life
Wow.
in the tropics.
Wow. I went to Puerto
Yep.
Rico about 4 or 5 years ago. Pretty incredible
Sorry about
place. So, oh well, at least she's closer to the ocean, right?
Yes, she is. She is very close to the ocean and the rivers. Absolutely.
And it's been like, I think it's like a year. Maybe let me go get this right. It's probably been about 18 months since we last spoke.
Yeah, which is crazy because time has just flown by, and I feel like a lot has shifted, a lot has stayed the same, but it's been a blessing for us to be here. I know when we last spoke, we were wondering where we were going to be 18 months later.
Yeah, we were like, what's going on?
Yes.
Energy was intense. I think that time was around May, was it?
Yeah,
I think it was May,
in
something
the
like
thick
that.
of it.
May in the thick of it, and we had that. I mean, it was a wonderful conversation for me anyway to actually connect with you guys, because I've been trying to connect with you guys for quite a few years on my previous album, but the planets didn't align. And obviously the planets align now perfectly for this wonderful song that we've created together. I'm very honored to have you bless the music and the album and have your presence on there, because it's been a journey, as you said, and to share what we're sharing within this song and the way you both came through on that was absolutely amazing,
Yeah, for sure. Give thanks. And the instrumental was like very powerful, very inspiring for us. And what I appreciated was just our creative process. We took the time to actually talk about what was on our spirits. And I think that was very essential. A lot of times as when artists collaborate, it's kind of just like, oh, I like what you do, I like what you do. But we really took time to break bread, and build on the concept. And so that was very inspiring and fun. And then we just was able to come through with it,
Yeah, well, I mean, the interesting thing is as well, because like yours was kind of having that conversation with you guys kind of set the platform for how I was, especially with the artists that I was collaborating with remotely, kind of set the foundation to how to communicate that way to create by asking the question of what is going on inside, because like when we spoke, we were like at the height of confusion, right? And it was like, but what is the inside saying? What is it saying? And I took that on board with all the other artists I spoke to as well. Do you know what I mean? And what came back was so profound.
Yeah.
And you never stop learning in these things, right? So it's just been a beautiful way to connect. And like working remotely can be quite challenging, right?
Definitely.
If the producer's not in the room or you're not with the artist, it's you want an expression in a certain way and blah blah blah. But the expression of the soul, especially when we're sharing about what we're feeling inside, cannot be questioned, really, right?
Absolutely.
And that's what I really feel within the song now, and spending the hours working on it here in the middle of the night, and like being across the Atlantic, being in different places, and really connecting with the spirit of you guys, girls, should I say, connecting with you, like really feeling that spirit in there was so deep for me,
Give thanks. No, absolutely. And like, since we wrote it, like the song has been stuck in my head. So I'm actually glad now that, we can all stream it on digital platforms, because it's such a vibe, it's such a message. And I think also it's powerful that it's now come to the world now, because as things are transitioning kind of back to how it was, nothing will, I think, be the same. So it's a reminder of kind of like those meditations and those mantras, those inside thoughts that we were sitting with in the height of the moment. It's a reminder, and it's necessary.
Yeah, I think that when you I mean, I think I might have mentioned this before in some of my other interviews and stuff like that. A kind of friend brought to my attention that, like, when you release a song, it's like a baby, right? And once it goes out into the world, it becomes its own thing and it evolves over time, you know. And what it becomes is so much. It's kind of different from when you were creating it. Regardless of the intention or the message that's in there, it evolves on its own because how it's received from the individual ears is different for everybody, and it touches people, or people connect with that song or have a memory with that song that's unique to them. So it's literally like having a baby.
Yes, it is. It is. It's definitely a birthing process.
You know, so the spirit of breathing is now running. Now it's running into the world, right? You know. So I was looking at like doing my little bit of research, and I wanted to really go into how could you explain to me, like, you know, you describe your music as like a sonic manifestation of Afrofuturism. Yeah. How would you encapsulate that? How would you break that down for the listeners and stuff?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a literal meaning behind that statement, and then there's also kind of like a creative interpretation. The literal meaning is that, you know, Afrofuturism is a creative concept in which you couple ancient African concepts with sci-fi and future and just modern times. And so the work that we do as a group called Oshun is a Yoruba deity, an ancient energy, you know, that we channel through our music, but we do it in a modern sense. You know, we are millennials. It is 2021. You know, we are rappers, hip hop artists. And so that coupling of those concepts, one in of itself, is Afrofuturism. So that's a manifestation. And the other aspect is that, you know, just musically, the sounds that we bring, very bass heavy, very, you know, like digital in many ways, but we're still speaking on ancient concepts. We're still using certain syncopated patterns that are ancient in Afro. So yeah, that's pretty much where it came from.
Cool. Because I believe you went to Nigeria, right? Was that
Yes. We've been to Nigeria. We have family, spiritual family, in a town called Oshogbo, which is actually kind of like one of the central places in which Oshun, the deity, is worshipped. There's a river called the Oshun Oshogbo River out there that is a physical manifestation of the spirit of Oshun. So we go out there, we spend time there, we got fam there, and we do some work out there as well.
And what was because obviously there's a few ceremonial practices associated with that, right?
Right.
Could you break down what they are for me?
So yes, Oshun, she's a deity in Orisha. So there's a spiritual practice called Orisha, in which there are people who are devoted to different Orisha. Oshun is not the only Orisha, but she is one, and she is a maternal figure, a leader figure, a warrior figure, a healer. And so there are many people who worship Oshun, who are priests of Oshun, and bring that healing energy to the community and to the world. And yes, and that's part of what we do as well. Niambi and I both are Oshun priests as well. So we just showing love for our great mother.
What were your actual learning processes to become a qualified priestess?
Yeah, so it comes from training. You know, we have teachers who are also Oshun priests. And so it really has just been from years of putting that work in, studying and training, and making that sacrifice to actually go to the land in which Oshun comes from, and studying with the people out there as well.
Right, and your attention or attraction to these practices came how did that come about?
Yeah, so it's our ancestral lineage, it's our birthright. You know, we come from a group of people who are indigenous to that land, who were displaced as a result of transatlantic slave trade, colonization, and things of the such. So, you know, it's something that we were able to answer the call and come back to through years of troubleshooting here on this side of the world in the States. And then also just, you know, our general community, the people that we've found friendships with, a lot of them are also a part of this spiritual practice. People, not even friends, but family friends, aunties and uncles who have raised us and uplifted us, that have exposed us to our culture. Even our parents both, you know, I mean, our parents have been students and observers of African culture, and they passed that down to us. So it's always been something on our path that we've answered the call to, you know, and just continued it on.
So it's a remembering, would you say, more than anything?
Yes.
Because I was going to ask as well, like, does it September the 8th is the festival? Is that right?
Yeah, so there's many different lineages and continuations of the culture. So the Yoruba people, they are originated indigenous to West Africa, Nigeria, Benin, Togo, even out to Ghana. But through displacement, you find these same groups of people in places like Brazil, in places like Cuba, in places like Puerto Rico. And so out of Cuba came a spiritual system called Lukumi. And Lukumi is a syncretism, or not really fully a syncretism. It is it's a result of Yoruba culture and Orisha culture after the transatlantic slave trade. And so through that, one of the developments in that lineage is feast days. And so OSHUN has a feast day in the Lukumi culture in which people bring big offerings to her and give her big praise. It's like her holiday around the world.
Right. And are they particular healing practices that you would see the lineage of that in other cultures or not? Or you think this is like particularly unique?
I'm sorry, I didn't fully hear the question. Could you repeat it?
All right. So would you say that they're like kind of like either ceremonial or healing practices that are similar in other cultures? Or
oh yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I think so. Absolutely. You know, I truly believe that all indigenous cultures come from the same root. I think that there are differences, there are nuances, and they aren't the same. But, you know, you could go to Asia and find a lot of similar healing practices that look familiar, feel familiar. You could go to the indigenous people of the land here in Turtle Island in the United States that have a lot of continuity. So it's very deep. It's very ancient. You know, ancient is ancient and ancient is ancient. You go to India, you'll find a lot of the same things. You know, may have different names, may look different, but I think that ultimately, you know, there's one creator, there's one source, and that is very profound to think about that.
Yeah, because I mean, I did a lot of practices and stuff and that with the American and Native American cultures and stuff like that. I've experienced, like, you know, the plant medicines and done a lot of ceremonies and stuff, which helped me a lot. Actually, that's my first kind of sort of experience of that was 2012. But it massively helped me. And then over the time, out of the interest of that, you know, even when I went to India before and traveling to different places in the world, I see the similarities keep popping up. Do you know what I mean? Even down to, for example, the Temescal, which is known as the Sweat Lodge. Like, this is a practice that is all over the world, every part of the world, you know? So I have a kind of like feeling, yeah, like if we were to, you know, if you believe in the idea of Atlantis as a continent, do you know what I mean, that got destroyed, then this knowledge then breaks up and grows across the world, right? But in some magical way, things are preserved, right? And then it seeps through in different cultures, but you can see the connection, you know.
Absolutely.
You know, and the Temescal, the Sweat Lodge is the one thing that really stands out to me. I'm like, well, how do you all know this? Do you know what I mean? Yeah, you live in completely different parts of the world, in on completely different climates, but there's a connection, you know? I find that stuff really fascinating.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, like, even with colors, I mean, there's, you know, I've seen the people where they've done studies of tribes that live in higher altitudes across the world, all seem to use the same colors. So they say, like, well, maybe from when the Great Deluge happened and there was a flood and these people fled, yeah, the people that were in higher ground but kept the traditions, you know. I mean, I couldn't stand history at school. Like, school, I was like, history was like one of the worst classes, right? But once I left school, I love history. I absolutely love it. I love going down the rabbit hole. I love to find, you know, the thing, not the commercial history, obviously, the history that's not being, you know, given to us, shall we say. You know, that curiosity is always there. Do you know what I mean? And when I've journeyed with the plants as well, I've found lineages in why I'm fascinated with Egypt, or why I'm fascinated with different lands and stuff like that, you know. So for you, with the influence of your beliefs and everything, how much does that affect, or how much does that play a part in your creative process as far as the music is concerned?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, our spiritual practice is our lifestyle. So everything that we do is predicated on how we interact with the universe, how we interact with our spirit guides and our ancestors. So by the time we're writing music, we've already centered ourselves, you know, in a way in which is profound and aligned with our personal spirit. You know, it's an honor to walk in this path because it allows us to be our most full and authentic selves. You know, we don't have to necessarily fit into any particular codes or things that would limit us from being creators, from being artists, and from being our full selves. So, you know, it's like by the time we're writing a song, by the time we're in the studio, you know, we've already put ourselves in a prayerful state, and put ourselves in a way that it's not something that we have to imagine or perform. You know, it's inherently applied to everything that we do because we walk in our spirituality.
Right. That's interesting you say that, because this is what the Native American practices taught me about space. Like, that every space that I'm in is a gift. Right. So it really made me helped me become aware of my creative space.
Yeah.
You know, and the practices that I do when I come into the studio, you know, and understand that this is a gift. You know, not just the craft, the actual space I've been given to create.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And now I see this is my ceremonial space.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so, and it's these ancient practices that have taught me that. Do you know what I mean? And I've noticed the difference, you know, like, you know, if I've been a bit lackluster and I've done like, I don't know, I'm X amount of hours in the studio, and I've come back in the next day and I've come to listen to something and I've forgotten to cleanse the place and stuff. You know what I mean? And then I notice a difference. Do you know what I mean? And then I cleanse the place and I become more acutely aware of where I am.
Yes.
When I'm listening, I'm completely hear everything.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And feel everything. So, you know, there's no denying the fact of our relationship to just be conscious and be aware of where you are, especially with an energy like music, right?
Yes.
You know, we're a conduit for this stuff, right? You know, I mean, have you come out of a creative experience and never thought, like, wow, where did that come from? Like,
all the time. You know, I listen to some music and I'm just like, who wrote this? I didn't write that. And I'll even, like, sometimes, you know, I'll get writer's block and I won't be able to write anything because I feel like I'm trying to write it. But it's when I'm just let spirit flow through me that I have the bars, honestly. Like, it happens a lot, for sure. I think a lot of musicians and artists, I was having a conversation with my friend the other day, my god sister, that, you know, actors and artists and creatives are vessels for spirit. You know, we're channeling things that are outside of just ourselves. And so in that respect, it's a very sacred job to be a musician, to be an artist, to be a creative, because you're allowing your inspirations to speak through you. So that's a fact.
The challenge is learning to, I mean, I've said this before, but the challenge is learning to get out of the way, right? You know, you can almost become too conscious of what you're doing. Yeah, which then you invite all these questions into the space.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, rather than allowing it, like you said, to come through you, and you come out, like you say, you come out of that bubble and you reflect, and then you're like, what is this? It's like, where did this come from?
Yes, definitely.
But that's the beautiful thing, you know. I mean, I've had the situations where I've worked for hours on something.
Right, yeah.
And I've pressed stop. I was like, whoa, let me just press play again. I press play and I'm like, that's not what I've been listening to.
Yeah, it happens.
And sometimes it's good.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm like, what is that?
What's that? Right.
But I was reading up a really interesting fact about you. The Office.
Yes.
Which I thought was quite funny, especially because we're talking about the TV series here. It's obviously created by Ricky Gervais, which is an English comedian. And obviously it's a huge hit in America and stuff like that. I just wondered if, out of that, I just wondered, have you ever watched the English version?
So I think I saw like one episode, and it wasn't exactly the same, but I think ultimately, like, the show is so hilarious because it kind of brings the British humor in an American interpretation. So definitely have honor and respect to the OG of The Office. Like, gotta give my respects.
Yeah, because I mean, like, I mean, I've learned this through traveling through America and being over there a lot and stuff like that. And obviously, you know, and I follow a lot of comedy, and humor's so different. Do you know what I mean? Especially like, so like British humor is very sarcastic.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I find that American sarcasm is different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It actually feels more literal. Do you know what I mean? And I would say that British sarcasm is more stealth. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like, you know, well, maybe I'm just talking about me because I know I can be sarcastic, and sometimes people be like, "What are you on about?"
Right.
And I'm like, I don't mean it. But I just, because the office is full of that. Yeah. Right. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and I was just
definitely giving full sarcasm all the way through.
And I'm like, I've watched the American. It's interesting because I've watched the American version, and again, I've only watched a few. Because I totally know the British version. Right? Do you know what I mean? So the zones are definitely different because it has to be to fit the culture, right?
Right. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You know, so that's how I say I was interested to see whether you'd watched the British one and whether it was something that's gone completely over your head. You know what I mean? It was like, what's this?
Definitely. Definitely.
So what's in the pipeline then for OSHUN? Have we got an album coming? Or?
Yes.
I bet you hear that question.
Have music coming. We got an album coming. It's in the works. We've been working on it. We're taking our time because it's special. It's very special. And you know, we have a lot of other things we're working on. We actually have a new web series that's going to be coming out in a few weeks. Well, really, it's a continuation of what we've been doing, which is a series called OSHUN Fridays, which is something where we give prayer and offering to OSHUN for people who want to sign up with us. Like I said, we are OSHUN priests, so we also just do work of healing for the community, and this is an opportunity for us to open that up to our fans. So we've been doing that, and we're going to be taking that series to a whole nother level. It's coming up. Definitely get excited about that. And yeah, we're still writing, creating, making, and also hopping on other people's tracks too, like Breathe In.
Yay! And how's the creative process been now for you now that Thandiwe's in Puerto Rico?
Yeah, it's awesome. I take a flight to Puerto Rico. We make music on the beach.
Oh, cool.
So it's lit.
Cool. So she hasn't totally escaped. She's still accessible to you.
We are together forever, for life.
And how's that feeling working in a different environment like that?
Oh, it was needed. It's definitely been a really big blessing to go and just be in nature. You know, we are very nature girls. So to be able to actually be in the rainforest making music is totally different from like being in the basement of a dorm. So it opens up our creative pineal gland, I guess. And you know, we get to just enjoy and not have to deal with the noise so much.
Right. Did you find that you needed to acclimatize gradually to that, or was it quite quick for you? Was it quite natural?
Oh, it was easy. It was definitely easy.
Right, because I mean, I live in Spain. I live in obviously the tropical part of the Mediterranean, and you know, like moving here for me was like, oh wow, yeah, to have a studio in the sun and blah blah blah, it'd be amazing. And then when I got here, I was just like, wow, it took me about 2 years to really like find the balance. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Because of the, I don't know, it was just like, well, it was sunny. I didn't want to be in the studio.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? You know, it's like,
I totally
it was like, you know, my daughter's jumping in the pool and stuff. I was just like, whoa, I want to be out there. You know what I mean? So, and I'm quite a nocturnal person as well when it comes to writing. Just because of, well, I've probably got a lot of reasons, but I find that the energy waves are more wide open on a night, you know. So I mean, I've tried to do the, you know, I'm going to do 10 till 6, you know, like that, but creativity just doesn't work like that for me. You know, and now I trust the process. Whenever it's meant to be, it's meant to be, you know. So working on a night for me is kind of, I don't know, there's just something about the energy on a night. How do you feel about that?
I agree. I think, like, you know, sometimes we try to get creative in the day, and it is easier being in nature. But it's always like, even if we try to start in the day, it's like nighttime is when we really get it cracking, for sure.
Yeah. It's like the daytime's like a prep, right? It's like you're prepping, you have a talk, you know, like
right, exactly.
But it's all part of not doing the music is part of making the music. Right? Do you know what I mean? So, you know, and then you just fall into the zone, and you might have like a fruitful like 2 hours, right? And all the magic happens, right?
Definitely.
Especially for me, it's kind of 3 a.m. Something about 3 a.m.
Yeah, that's a good time right there.
Yeah.
Once you hit 3 a.m., oh.
Yeah, the vortex opens, right? It's like the portals there, right?
Definitely.
Then we get to travel.
Yes.
Well, it's been amazing talking to you. It's been amazing catching up. Originally, we were going to do this, obviously, and in the podcast and stuff. You guys gave me a playlist of artists here. As with all my podcasts, I invite people to select some songs and stuff that represent. Actually, there's one question I did want to ask you.
Right.
But I'll talk about it. I asked people to select some songs so that represent freedom to them, or the expression of freedom to them. And I was looking at this list. We've got Erykah Badu, India.Arie, Jill Scott, Lauryn Hill, Missy Elliott. The only 2 people I've not seen live is India.Arie and Missy Elliott. Those are the only 2. And I thought, that's a powerful list, man. That's a powerful list there, right? There's some real queens on there. But that takes me to my question. If you could, what would be your expression or definition of freedom?
For freedom, that's a good question. I think freedom is just the ability to be without obstacle. The ability to just be, you know. It doesn't have to be anything bigger than that. And I think that is such a simple thing that so many people don't have access to. But really, we're all supposed to be born free. We're all born on an earth that has plenty of food for all of us to eat, plenty of water for us to drink, plenty of resources. And so being is freedom. It's only when other people put limitations and rules and tariffs and, you know, prices on things that we're not free. So yeah, I think it's just to be.
Yeah, I would second that. I mean, like I've called the album "Shout Out to Freedom," and that title came about because of having these conversations with the artists and coming up with these songs. That I realised that they were all different definitions of freedom.
Right.
And then that took me to a place where I started questioning, well, what is freedom?
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And then that took me to another place, and I was just like, oh my God. And then we've got the movie that's going on the outside as well right now, and all kinds of stuff going on in this kind of show. I was just like, wow. It's just like, maybe, you know, the human race has definitely got a serious case of amnesia going on. Do you know what I mean? It's like so much that we've forgotten, and that's not like a complaint.
Yeah.
It's just something that it would be really nice for us to become more aware of. Do you know what I mean? Like there's something innately within us, right, that knows what freedom is.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Right? And whether it's preoccupation or constraints are stopping us from living that way and being that way, you know? And we should want that for everybody, right? We should want everybody to be free, you know?
Definitely.
So, but there's this certain element out there that's sponsoring the opposite. Do you know what I mean? And fear is like the main kind of like driver for that. You know, it's like if we could eradicate fear, maybe we would be more free. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, so it's the illusion that I'm challenging now. I'm questioning. You know, and in every way possible, not to give the answer, to learn. You know what I mean, and ask the question to everybody. You know, and the album and the music is about asking the question too, because I believe that if we put ourselves in a position to question the so-called reality we're in, we have an opportunity to become freer. You know, that's my shout out to freedom.
Yes. Yes to that. Yes to that.
So on that one, I'm gonna love you and leave you.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good.
I'm loving the colors behind you. Can you tell me what that is?
Thank you. It's got some traditional Yoruba batik art behind me.
That is awesome. Yeah, I need to sort my color game out in the background.
Yes. No, you're fine. You're fine. Giving studio vibes.
All soundproofing and good energy.
Yes.
Well, listen, Thandi, thank you so much for your time and energy. Thank you for joining me.
Of course.
Please send my love to Naimbi, and
I most definitely will.
Let's connect soon.
Yes, and everybody make sure you stream that Breathe In. Nightmares on Wax featuring OSHUN.
And don't forget to breathe in.
And don't forget to breathe in. Yes.
All right. One love, darling.
All right. Peace, y'all.